Welcome to the Right on Purpose podcast, where we empower aspiring authors in the second half of their lives to discover the joy and fulfillment of crafting their legacy through the written word. Join me, Brad Swift, a seasoned Right on Purpose coach, as I share insights, strategies, and inspirational stories to guide you on your journey of self-discovery and creative expression. You can learn more about Right on Purpose coaching at wbradfordswift.com/coach. Now here's today's show. Hello, everybody. Yes, this is Brad Swift, your Right on Purpose coach, and this is the Right on Purpose podcast. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Rebecca Nagy. While it's typical for podcasters like me to interview the famous best-selling authors, I really think it's maybe even more important to talk with the up-and-coming authors who are actually in those early stages of their own authorial hero adventures.
Hey, Brad, I got to interrupt you. I'm frozen on this side. It says Zoom meeting not responding.
Okay.
So I'm gonna come out, go out and come back in. Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I'd hate for this not to be working and at the end and say, "Oh, none of it recorded." So
okay. Not a
okay. Let me go. I'll be right back.
All right. Hello, everybody. Yes, this is Brad Swift, your Right on Purpose coach, and today is the Right on Purpose podcast, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to Rebecca Nagy. Now, while it's typical for podcasters like me to oftentimes interview, famous, best-selling authors, I think it may be even more important to talk with up-and-coming authors who are in the early stages of their own authorial hero adventures, as I like to mention it and kind of talk about in my book, Right on Purpose. And I know no better place to start than with some of my own Right on Purpose clients that I've worked with, like Rebecca. So let me tell you just a little bit about Rebecca. She is an author. She's an award-winning wedding officiant, a spiritual teacher, and an inspirational speaker. After a spiritual awakening in Paris, she transitioned from fashion design to a spiritual teaching. That's pretty broad. That's like me going from being a veterinarian to a full-time writer and coach. She's a graduate of Santa Sofia Seminary. She has led 2 New Thought congregations and taught at Queen's University in Charlotte, North Carolina. And in 2018, she founded the Golden Quest Mystery School. And as a writer, her debut novel, Phoenix Rising Initiation, begins the Tribred Chronicles. And that's a science fiction fantasy series that blends ancient aliens, magic, dreams, and astrology. And the series invites readers on a journey of self-discovery and cosmic connection, grounded in Rebecca's profound metaphysical knowledge itself. So without any further ado, welcome to the Right on Purpose podcast, Rebecca.
Well, thank you, Mr. Brad. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I was really looking forward to this because I have enjoyed being a part of your journey to being not just an aspiring author, but now a published author with not just one book, but a second book in the work and a third one on slate for the near future, I'm sure. So let's just go ahead and jump into, let me ask you some questions about this journey that you've been on as an author. Starting with this kind of notion, again, in the Right on Purpose book that I just launched, one of the things that kind of the framework for that is the hero's journey, because I really do consider, every author's on their own hero journey as articulated by Joseph Campbell. And part of that journey oftentimes is answering the call to write after refusing it. And many aspiring authors I work with have refused the call to write for quite some time before finally answering it. Did you find this to be true for yourself? And if so, what led you to finally answer the call and start writing that first book?
Well, I actually started writing a first book as a memoir way back in 2007, and
Mm,
I didn't finish it. And then during COVID, I started to really become a fan of of fiction. I used to do mostly nonfiction there for a while, and then found this genre called sci-fi fantasy, and I really enjoyed it. And then I was reading one particular series of books, and I thought, wait a minute, this has this is a lot of spiritual messages here. I could write this book. I could write these books. I could take my own spiritual teachings and what I learned as a metaphysical minister, and I could just make it fiction. So I could take my memoir and make it fiction. And I said, nah, nah, nah. No, I'm not gonna. And then I woke up middle of the night, as we do. My muse wakes me up about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I got this message: "What is your legacy?"
mm.
And I thought, what do you mean? And I got the idea that instead of teaching uh, classes, because we were in the middle of COVID anyway, I couldn't teach in person, write them as a novel. Take what you're doing, and so I just said, okay, and I just started writing. I just sat down, and what I did was I used like my own personal stories. I used my journals. I was getting dreams, and it just started coming. It just started happening.
So, so it sounds to me like listening to that message that came to you at 2 o'clock in the morning.
But
Was it just the one message, or did
oh
the
no, no, no,
muse have
no.
to nudge you a few extra times?
Yeah, at least every day. Yeah, I mean, there came a point where it was like, am I writing nonsense? I mean, is this any good? And so I had like stop and start. And then I had the bright idea of getting my students from my mystery school to become alpha readers. And
Mm,
so we used it as a platform for me to continue teaching them. And that's how it evolved over the first 2.5 years.
yeah, very good. And just for those who may or may not be familiar with the term alpha readers, they are, I know of alpha readers and beta readers, and alpha readers kind of come in very early on, like when the whole thought of what will be the form and framework of the book is still, in question. And then beta readers come along and further along the way, where in most cases the rough draft has been finished, maybe even been polished up a little bit, and then they come in for a final. Well, have you thought about this? And maybe this would be better to go this way, and all that itself. But both of those can be very useful, particularly for us writers who spend a lot of time wondering if what we're writing makes any sense or not. Have
Exactly.
you found
And
that to
I
be true?
live, yeah, go ahead.
I said, have you found that to be true for yourself?
Absolutely. It's essential for me because the only person I have around is called Gabriel, and he's my four-legged cat. So I don't have anyone to say, "Hey, honey, come and do this. What do you think of this?" So it's my alpha readers and my beta readers are very important to my process.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah. Because again, one of the things that has continued to evolve for myself in my coaching framework is helping aspiring authors to identify two aspects of themselves. That being as I call it, your hero, your inner hero, but also your inner villain. And that inner villain is the one that keeps talking in your ear about, is this really making any sense? Uh, I'm not a writer. Why do I think I can do this? Just all the negativity, disempowering conversations that, as far as I know, every writer that I've ever, not only just every writer, but pretty much every human being listens to, but sometimes they listen to it like it's the truth rather than it's just that voice from the past that's keeping you from moving forward in your full self-expression itself. So,
Well, and I'm going to interject something here
yeah,
about you as a coach, because when we finally found each other and I started working with you as my coach, you let me know that that is very normal. It's like I'm not unusual. It's like part of the creative process is doubting sometimes that
yeah,
who wants to hear this, or nobody wants to listen to what, you know. So that was probably one of the most empowering things you helped me with in the beginning, is just keep going, because what you have to say is important.
yeah, yeah, very good. Yeah, we don't know. We'll probably touch on this whole thing about legacy before we finish this, but that's a key part of my own message is, you know, write the book, get it published, put it out there, and then see what happens. Then there is no guarantees as to what will become a bestseller, but there is this whole thing of it can become part of your legacy, which we'll get into in just a moment. So then there's this whole part about balancing this kind of the structure and spontaneity in the writing process. So typically in the writing world, people talk about being a pantser or a planner. And it's oftentimes I hear it like you're one or the other. And I don't think of it that way. I think of it more like you're on a spectrum, and that spectrum can change. You might be at the far end of being a pantser, a spontaneous writer, or you might be at the other end of I've got to plan everything out. So first off, where would you say, particularly for this first book, where would you have fit on that spectrum?
The first book, I was definitely a pantser.
Okay.
I was, it was just a flow, or not flow. And I just kept writing, and it wasn't until later that I learned about even, I'm not an outline person. I find outlines laborious. At least I did. um, so yeah, definitely pantser in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Um, so, so would you say you have any outlining or not even outlining? Because I know when I think about outlines, I think back to, I guess high school, even junior high, where it's, like a capital A, and then you got under that a small a, and then you got the little I and all that. So most writers that I know, even those who are planners, tend to avoid that. But in this second book, have you found a certain amount of, you know, planning useful, or are you continuing to?
Oh, absolutely. Because I'm visual, I used to be a fashion designer. So
Mhm.
what I did was I bought, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 different colors of 4x8 note cards.
Hmm.
And I designated a color for each of the character arcs.
Hmm.
And then I did part one, part two, part three, part four. And so I started to use my I got a board. So it's sort of almost like a mind mapping idea, but
Mm-hmm.
I on each card is what's in the chapter, what do I need to put in the chapter, what do I need to follow up one from book two to book from book one to book two. So yeah, this time is a little bit different. um I'm using that system. I just made it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some of the best systems in the world that we end up having are those that we either customize, that we find for somebody else and we customize it to our own benefit, or we create it, from scratch like you have. And I appreciate you
Yeah,
sharing that because that would be something that other aspiring authors might say, oh, wow, yeah, visuals, different color note cards and, all the different ways you can use that itself. So, yeah, I
can I give
personally
you one more
found,
thing I do?
yeah, sure, go ahead.
One more thing I do is if I'm writing a battle scene, I'm playing music like from Lord of the Rings or something,
Ah,
so that I have emotion back here.
very good, good. So at some point we might find on the Pandora the Rebecca Nagy playlist
Right,
for
there you
battle
go. Oh,
scenes,
that's a
for
good idea.
romantic scenes, for inspirational scenes.
There you
That'd be
go. Yeah.
that'd be great. Now the other part is, and you're I think far enough along with you may be starting to run into this. That's that whole part of staying inspired and motivated for the long haul. So Rebecca's book, and I'm going to show it, even though you can't see it, but I'm showing her beautiful book, Phoenix Rising Initiation, and it's I don't know if you can hear that or not, but those are the pages clicking. Let's see, we got right around a little bit over 400 pages. So it's a I would say that was in the epic fantasy genre, area as far as book, and this is just book one, then you got book two, and then you got book three. So I would consider that a long haul. So
Yes.
practices have you instituted to help you stay inspired to write to completion of all three of those books?
There are several things. One of the things I do is I read other books or listen to other. I'm a big audiobook person. That's why I produce the audiobook to this as well.
Yeah.
So if for example, when I was a fashion designer, I used to buy magazines and pull out pictures, and then put them in files. So as an author, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm doing it with books. So I'm reading, and not just my own genre, because I don't want to just listen, because then I'm afraid I'm going to plagiarize in my mind or something. So I'm constantly reading either research material, because I do a lot, because there's a lot of past life references in my books. I want to make sure they're historically accurate. So I'm researching historical things. I'm researching other authors, and I'm listening to audiobooks. And then I am a big person about dreams. So if I get stuck, and I'm stuck right now, I'll say to my dream maker, I'll write it out in my dream journal. I need insight into this. What should the next thing be? And quite frankly, within a day or two, I'll get an idea pop up in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And I just start writing from there.
Very good. Very good. So you kind of pointed to this. I want to ask the question just in case there's anything else that comes to mind from you, Muse. How do you rekindle the creativity during those times when inspiration feels scarce? So kind of your dream journal and as asking your muse, is there anything else
And then a lot of times, like I just did this last week, I just decided to watch a Netflix series just to clear my mind of everything. Because I find, for me, if I focus too hard, nothing comes.
Yeah.
And I also, like, I call it messages from the shower gods. A lot of times I'll take a shower and it's like, oh, that's a great idea. And I keep thinking it's because the shower is hitting my crown chakra, which is stimulating my mind or something.
Right.
So yeah, that's another thing that I do, is like I go totally out of the muse. I go totally away from it, or take a walk or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. And I always like to kind of wind up these podcast sessions with my former clients and my authors that I'm interviewing. What advice would you give writers, either about building a sustainable writing practice or anything else that you wish you had known earlier before you even started writing itself? What would you want to share with them?
The easy part of writing a book is writing the book. The hardest part of writing a book is the marketing after you publish.
Yeah.
I had no idea that 70-ish% of my time post publishing would be marketing and book signings and learning how to do TikTok, which one of my coaches, I think his name was Brad Swift, said you've got to be on Book Talk.
I don't know that I said you
So
gotta
yeah,
be, but I pointed
well,
to
you
that as
gotta
a
be.
possibility.
I mean, the industry says you gotta be. But yeah, that I think, and insofar as writing the book, you need a good editor. You need someone that knows your genre, that you can feel comfortable with being in a telling them, no, I don't think you're right. And then you have to have that back and forth with an editor.
Yeah.
And of course, for me, invaluable was the coaching. As a new author, I didn't know about the business. I didn't know about this or that. I mean, you were there the day I published on, Amazon. So, and then you taught me all the other parts. Learn the business. I guess that's bottom line. Learn your business. This is like getting my second PhD. It's a new career. Take workshops, get advice, and research the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I would say, Rebecca has been particularly, I would say, a star pupil in the area of really embracing that aspect of being a professional, experienced writer who's really committed to not just writing the book and getting out there, but having people know about it and be able to pick it up and read it. Not all my clients have that particular bent. They're not really wanting to go in that direction, but you've really, even this past week when I was doing my own book launch and mini workshop on writing on purpose, you were in your area doing a book signing and book party yourself, at one of the local bookstores. So any one last nugget in the area of marketing that you would say, do this or don't do this, or whatever you'd like to share about that?
Reach out to the author community. Authors helping authors is very, very important. And I have seen such generosity with saying, I mean, that's how I found you. I reached out to you to see if you would do a review. And instead we decided to do the coaching thing, and I have never had, excuse me, that I've reached out to for help that hasn't said, sure, what do you need?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, very good, very good. And I have found the same experience that when people, approach them authentically, let them know what you're looking for. I think as a general rule, the author community is much more in the spirit of collaboration and not competition. We're all in this together to express ourselves and get our work out. So That's very great. Well, where can people find out more about Phoenix Rising Initiation and book 2 and 3 and about you and yourself?
Well, I do have an author's website, and it's very simple. It's RebeccaNagyAuthor.com. And I've got a lot of character descriptions on there. You can sign up for my newsletter so you'll know when. And of course, there's Amazon. I'm on Amazon. I'm actually international. You can find me on Barnes and Noble. Any place that books or audiobooks are sold, you can just type that in. And if they don't have it, it can be ordered.
Yeah.
So
yeah, very good. So again, the name of the book one is Phoenix Rising Initiation, and it's book one of the Tribred Chronicles. And that's Nagy, Nagy. I think if you add that to the link, you'll find her website very easily. And I want to thank you once again for contributing and being a part of my life and being a all-star client of mine. I look forward to seeing what's next in your authorial hero journey as well.
Well, and I feel very honored and fortunate. Thank you.
You're welcome. This is Brad Swift, your Right on Purpose coach, and this has been the Right on Purpose podcast. Until next time, keep writing and staying on purpose. Take care, everybody.